Cowboys Nation, this just dropped and it could quietly turn into one of the most important, under-the-radar moves of the entire offseason. So before we break it all down, hit that subscribe button right now because we bring you Dallas Cowboys news the second it happens, and trust me, you're going to want to stay ahead of this one because the Dallas Cowboys are making a move that not everybody saw coming, bringing in defensive tackle Jonathan Bullard. And at first glance, you might be thinking, okay, depth piece, rotational guy, nothing crazy, right? But hang on. Because the deeper you look, the more this starts to feel like a calculated decision that could have ripple effects across the entire defensive line rotation, the locker room, and even how this team approaches the rest of free agency and the draft. And the crazy part is most fans are going to overlook it at first. Let's talk about what this really means. Because Bullard is not just some random name thrown into the mix, this is a veteran defensive lineman who's been around, who understands NFL systems, who can plug into multiple fronts, and that versatility is something this coaching staff clearly values, especially when you consider how Dan Quinn, or whoever is shaping this defense moving forward, is trying to maintain flexibility up front. And here's where it gets interesting, because Dallas has been dealing with questions along the interior defensive line for a while now. Not necessarily a lack of talent, but consistency, durability, and depth when injuries start stacking up late in the season, and we've all seen how that plays out when the games matter most. Now, is Bullard coming in as a star? No. Let's be real. But that's not the role here, and that's where a lot of fans misread these types of signings. Because what Dallas is doing is building layers. They're adding guys who can hold their ground against the run, eat up snaps, and allow the bigger playmakers on the edge to stay fresh and do what they do best. And if you've been watching this team closely, you know how critical that is when it comes to guys like Micah Parsons being able to move around and create chaos without being worn down by constant double teams and interior breakdowns. But here's what nobody is talking about yet. This move could signal something else coming. When a team signs a veteran defensive tackle like Bullard, especially at this stage, it usually means one of two things. Either they're not fully confident in the current depth chart, or they're preparing for another move, whether that's a release, a trade, or even a draft strategy shift. And that's where things get really intriguing, because the Cowboys have been walking a tightrope with cap space, trying to stay competitive while also planning for the future, and adding a player like Bullard likely comes at a reasonable cost, which fits perfectly into that strategy of maintaining flexibility without overcommitting financially. Now, let's talk locker room for a second, because this matters more than people think. Bringing in a veteran who's been through multiple systems, who understands his role, who doesn't need the spotlight, that can stabilize a unit in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. And if you've got younger guys developing behind the starters, having someone like Bullard in the room can actually accelerate that growth, and that's something championship teams do. They stack experience alongside talent. But let's not ignore the other side of this, because fans are going to ask the obvious question. Does this mean Dallas is settling? Are they patching holes instead of making big swings? And that's fair, especially when you look around the league and see other teams making splashy moves. But here's the reality. The Cowboys have built their identity on calculated decisions, sometimes frustratingly conservative, yes, but also designed to keep them competitive year after year. And this signing fits that exact mold. It's not flashy, it's not going to dominate headlines, but it could be one of those moves we look back on mid-season and say, wow, that actually mattered more than we thought. And if we're being honest, this defense doesn't need a complete overhaul. It needs reinforcement. It needs reliability in the trenches, especially against teams that want to run the ball straight at you and test your discipline. And that's where Bullard can make his impact, doing the dirty work, occupying blockers, allowing linebackers to flow freely, and helping maintain gap integrity, which is something that quietly determines whether you're winning on early downs or constantly playing from behind. Now let's address the rumor side of things, because anytime a signing like this happens, speculation starts flying. Some people are already suggesting this could mean a bigger defensive tackle move is off the table. Others think it's just the beginning and Dallas isn't done yet. And right now there's no confirmed report that this is their final move at the position, so take everything with a grain of salt, but it does feel like part of a broader plan rather than a one-off decision. And here's the bigger picture, because this is what really matters. What does this mean for the Cowboys' chances moving forward? It means they're continuing to build a roster that can survive the long grind of an NFL season, not just dominate in September, but still be standing strong in December and beyond, and we've seen in past years how depth, or the lack of it, can make or break this team when injuries hit or when rotations tighten up against elite competition. And that's exactly the kind of issue a signing like this is meant to address. So the question for you is simple. Do you like this move? Do you think adding Jonathan Bullard is the kind of smart, under-the-radar decision that helps this team get over the hump? Or do you want to see something bigger, something more aggressive from the front office? Because right now, it feels like Dallas is playing the long game, stacking pieces, building depth, and trusting their system, and whether that's enough is something we're all going to be watching closely as the offseason unfolds. At the end of the day, this isn't about headlines, it's about results, and if Bullard comes in and does his job, if he helps solidify that defensive front and keeps this unit fresh and effective deep into the season, then this move is going to look a whole lot smarter than it does right now. And that's how championship rosters are built, not just with stars, but with the right pieces and the right roles. So drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear exactly how you feel about this signing, and if you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe because we're breaking down every Cowboys move all off-season long, and you don't want to miss what comes next.